Welcome to today's Cyber Power Up webinar. Today we're going to be talking about what's new in the unified security platform from Q1. And so as we get going, welcome to this webinar. There is going to be a Q&A box that you have available to you. If you'd put any questions that come up in there, we've got Michael Cahill that's monitoring that, and we'll answer those questions for you. At the end of the webinar today, we'll also answer 3 or 4 of those really good, juicy questions that have come in so that everyone can see those and hear those answers. This webinar will also be recorded and will be shared on demand for future viewing as well. We will have a couple polls as well as a post-webinar survey, and if you complete all 3 of those, you'll be entered to win a $25 gift card. So we'll just keep moving along with that. So, okay, so let's get started. As you probably already know, our innovative network security, secure Wi-Fi, MFA, and endpoint solution combined to protect environments, users, and devices. All of our AI-based technology comes together in our unified security platform, and it's how we bring the essential elements of cybersecurity together for clarity and control, shared knowledge, comprehensive security, operational alignment, and automation. And this slide is just a visualization of how the unified security platform accomplishes this. As you all probably know, WatchGuard Cloud is our centralized interface for deploying and managing all of our security solutions, as well as accessing operational automation, deep visibility, and advanced reporting for those products. We continue to innovate and update our platform and add things in fairly regularly. And so today, what we want to do is cover what's been delivered in the platform over the last 3 months or so. So, just real quick, looking at the agenda, we'll talk about some updates with the Firebox. Some of those will be the decrypt HTTP traffic options, using the firewall as an NTP server, configuring net flow, connection rate limits that you can do with policies, configuring link aggregation, which is something that I believe a lot of folks have been waiting for, and then also policy-based VPNs. That's something that a number of folks have also been waiting for. And so we'll talk about and show you all of those things here today. Other items inside of WatchGuard Cloud, I'll show you how to enable account level MFA. We'll talk about the inventory and allocation summary that you can download now as a partner. In ThreatSync Core, we'll look at the automation reclassification that can be done for endpoint security and in ThreatSync. And we'll talk about custom roles that you can define now for ThreatSync Core. And then lastly, I'll quickly show you in ThreatSync Plus the ability that got added to search raw logs with ThreatSync Plus SaaS. So with that, let's get started. We're going to do our first poll and look at what product lines you guys are using today. So let's just take a couple seconds to do that poll.
All right, so some of the answers are coming in. It looks like Firebox is definitely in the lead, followed by Identity, Authpoint.
Awesome.
Looks like we got most people voted. Let her hang for a few more seconds. If you haven't voted yet, go ahead and do that. And otherwise, we can carry on.
All right.
All right.
Great. Thank you for doing that. So first thing that we're going to look at is we'll start looking at the new features that were added over the last quarter for the Firebox. So I want to share just a few miscellaneous items that have been added that don't really have a good show and tell, but I do want to make sure that you're aware of them. So first is the required message authentication attribute setting that can be configured when you're configuring a Radius server on the firewall. The purpose of this setting is to ensure the integrity of Radius packets and to help prevent spoofing, and helps protect the users from attacks that the CVE-2024-3596 could exploit. So when you're configuring that Radius server, either on the web UI or in WSM or in WatchGuard Cloud, there'll be a box towards the bottom of the configuration page where you can select to check the required message authentication attribute. So that's there and available for us now. Next is the update to the IPsec mobile VPN client for Windows, which is provided by NCP. The update to the client is the ability to support the IPv2 configurations. And so you can import those IPv2 configurations into the mobile VPN client now. The version of the client that supports this is 15.19, and it's available in the WatchGuard software downloads beginning with 12.11, the firmware 12.11. So if that's something that you're looking to utilize, that's now available as well. The last miscellaneous update related to the fireboxes is the ability to enable dual stack IPv4, IPv6 capabilities on the T45. IPv6 is only used to establish connections with the provider though, and it's not used for any other purposes other than just that connection to the provider. And you can enable that setting when you're enabling the 5G modem on the T45 CW. So you'll see that enable, and then you can enable IPv6 as well as you're doing that. So with that, we're going to get to our second poll, which we're very interested in understanding how you guys manage your firewall policy configuration and VPN settings. So I'll let you have a couple, about a minute to do that.
All right, got some of the results coming in. Looks like just a hair under 70% are saying the option D there, that we use 100% local management.
Okay.
About 80% of the votes are in. I'll get another 10, 15 seconds and I'll close it. And forgot to share the results for the last one, so I'll do that for this one. We can all see what the results are instead of me just telling you.
Yeah, that's not terribly unsurprising that the 100% local managed is still the primary way that folks are managing the firewalls. So.
All right, we'll hit a minute. I'll hit close and share so we can all see the results here. All right, Russell, back to you.
All right. Okay, so the next things that I want to share with you are a lot of those items that I showed initially. We'll go through those, and instead of boring you with slides, I'm going to actually do show and tell of each of those so that you can see where those are configured and how to configure those. So The first one that I want to talk about is the where you go to configure the HTTPS traffic settings. So we'll hop over to my WatchGuard cloud. I'm going to jump into my lab environment here, and under configure devices, we're going to go to one of the firewalls that's cloud managed here, and then in device configuration. So what we'll do is we'll go to one of the policies in our firewall policies here that has the decrypt HTTP traffic enabled on it. I'll just do my general outgoing. And we're going to see that we now have a number of options here that we can configure. So the first one here is safe search enforcement. We can certainly turn that on and use safe search, the safe search feature of web browser search engines to specify the level of the potential inappropriate content a search engine can return. And so we have the option to select either strict or moderate for that. And so that's available for us to turn on when we're doing decryption of HTTPS traffic. The next one is the Google Apps allowed domains. And here we can specify the domains that are allowed for Google services. And so we can go in and add a domain in there as we need. The next one is FastView. With FastView, you can gain visibility into your network traffic, web usage, and user activity. And you'll notice that on this one, there's no configuration options when you enable it. In order to utilize this, you'd have to have a FastView account. You must configure the syslog server settings for your cloud managed Firebox, and you must configure FastView Reporter for WatchGuard Cloud, which is a download that you would do off of FastView's website. There is a FastView integration with WatchGuard Firebox integration guide that is available in the Help Center as well, that will guide you through the things that need to be done to have FastView working for you if you want to be able to utilize that. The last thing here is URL path keyword filtering. You can turn that on, and then you can add some keywords. What this will do is it will allow you to block websites with URL paths that contain certain text that you specify, and so that's available for you. So those are the four options that are available as you're doing that decryption of HTTP traffic now. Okay, the next item that we will talk about is making the cloud managed Firebox an NTP server. This is also found underneath our device configuration, and it's in the settings section down here, our device settings. So when we come into here, we've got a number of tabs here that we can select. By default, NTP servers is selected. You can come in and enable the this for the device so that it can be an NTP server. Once it's activated, devices on private network can synchronize with it. If there's no policy available, actually, I wanted to show you that before I forgot. So I'm going to go to firewall policies, and underneath system policies here, we'll notice that we don't see a specific policy for NTP. Once we go and enable that NTP setting down here in device settings. I'll enable that and I'll save that. We'll notice that we need to deploy changes, obviously. But when we come back to our firewall policies and look at the system policies, we'll notice now that we have an NTP rule up here at the top. And so that rule is automatically created in the system policies for us. This policy allows traffic from the trusted and optional networks to the firebox, and for the clients to use the firebox as an NTP server, they'll obviously have to configure their device accordingly, whether it's their Windows or Mac workstation, or if it's the on the domain, you can certainly configure the domain to be able to manage that as well, as long as it's pointing to the firebox IP address for that segment, that internal segment. The next thing that I want to share with you is also found underneath the device settings, and that's where you go to configure NetFlow. So NetFlow data provides insights into network traffic, and it helps with troubleshooting and supports security analysis. The firebox sends flow records to a collector that uses third-party software to analyze the traffic. However, the firebox itself doesn't display or analyze any of the flow records. It's really just passing them along to that collector. So in the settings, we go to the NetFlow, we can turn that on, we can specify the version that we want, give it the collector address, which port is the one that's going to be sending it to the collector. And then we can also, with traffic monitoring, we can monitor traffic on different interfaces or different segments, either inbound or outbound, the ingress or egress traffic for those different network segments. We can select those that we want. Additional options that we have are monitoring of traffic generated by or directed to the firewall, and so we can select whether we want the traffic that's generated by the firewall, or if there's things that are getting sent to the firewall, we can then pass those along as well. And then we have the ability to manipulate the sampling mode as well. For large networks or higher loads, the firebox can perform some random analysis where if we select that, we can then specify how many packets per second we want to, or how many one out of how many packets we want to have analyzed or sent to the collector. We can certainly do that. So that's available there as well. So that's network or NetFlow configuration on the firewall. The next one is the feature that a lot of folks have been looking for, I believe, and that is link aggregation groups. So just as a review, a link aggregation group is a group of physical interfaces that you'll configure to work together as a single logical interface. You can use a lag interface to increase the cumulative throughput beyond the capacity of a single physical interface, and to provide redundancy if there is a physical link failure. In WatchGuard Cloud, you can configure a lag as an external, internal, or guest interface, and, or as a member of a VLAN or a bridged interface as well. So very flexible for us. So to configure a lag, we would go to the network section of the device configuration. And there's actually two places where you can configure a lag. The first one is underneath an already created network segment that you've defined. Down here, you can add the lag here. The other place is just on the general network settings area, which is right here. And you can go in and create that lag. So we'll just start that process. We'll add a lag, we'll give it a name. And so I'm just gonna call this, I'm just gonna call it test for right now. And so a few requirements and limitations that I want to make you aware of when it comes to link aggregation on the firewalls. So the first one is link aggregation is supported only on cloud managed firebox configuration, cloud managed fireboxes that are configured in mixed routing mode. The lag interfaces do not support traffic management, QoS, or some other advanced interface settings. The Firebox V, Firebox T10, Firebox T15, and the NV5 devices do not support link aggregation as well. Physical interfaces that are members of a lag must support the same link speed. So you can't add two different link speeds to a lag. They have to have the same link speed. And if you're using link aggregation with a fire cluster, failover is triggered if all of the lag member interfaces fail. Cluster failover is not triggered if only some of the lag member interfaces fail. And so they all have to fail before it will fail over to the backup master in the fire cluster. So we've got the name there. We have three different modes that are available for us to configure or choose to configure from. The first one there is static. So when you select static, all the physical interfaces that are members of the lag can be active. The same physical interface is always used for traffic between a given source and destination based on the source and destination MAC and the source and destination IP. This mode will provide load balancing and fault tolerance. The dynamic is using 802.3 AD, and all the physical interfaces that are members of this type of lag can also be active. The physical interface used for traffic between any source and any destination is determined through the use of the link aggregation control protocol, which is typically called LACP. So the LACP is the protocol used when the lag runs in the 802.3 AD mode. LACP offers to negotiate it refers to the negotiation and interaction process between the lag peers. And the peer must also be able to support LACP. And then the last one here is active backup. This mode, at most, only one interface in the lag is active at any one time. The other member interfaces of this type of lag become active only if the active interface fails. So this mode provides fault tolerance for connections to network switches that do not support link aggregation. If you choose dynamic or static mode, the connected network switch or router must also support and be configured to use the same mode. And so just enabling it on the firewall side doesn't necessarily make it so that it's going to work unless you configure it on the device that it's connecting to as well. So let's, just for the sake of it, I'm going to select dynamic. We'll come in. We'll see the available interfaces for us to add to the link aggregation group. You'll notice that my interfaces 0, 1, and 2 aren't showing up. That's because those are already in use, and so they're not available. Only interfaces that are unused are going to show up in this list. So I'm going to select 7 and 8, and I'll hit next. And then I can select which network segment I want that lag to be associated with. And so I'll go ahead and select my lab segment and select done. So now that that lag is now being used along with that network segment here. If I pop into here, I'll see that showing up down here. I'll also see the lag showing up on port 7 and 8 here. Again, we'll have to go and on the device that this is connecting to, that these two ports are connecting to, make sure that that is set as well. You can also go and delete a lag straight from the interface here and remove it from the configuration. And we'll get a message there that just shows us that the group will be removed from all the associated networks. So we'll hit that, and now that lag has been removed. Okay, so that's link aggregation.
Russell,
yeah.
If I can interject real quick, I just wanted to add, I went and checked the docs to confirm, but I had the same question, so I'd imagine somebody else did, that if you guys were curious about the differences of link aggregation functionality of local management versus the cloud, other than the UI obviously being a little different, the underlying functionality is exactly the same between local management and cloud management. I had caught the QoS and traffic management. That perked my ears up. I was making sure that that was not different between the two. It is the same on both. And at the interface level, traffic management and QoS does not work through link aggregation interfaces. Same for both local and cloud management. But the policy side of that, all of that does. So if you have QoS or traffic management configured within the firewall policies, that will absolutely still work. Just the interface level stuff. And that is the same between local and cloud management. So I just wanted to double check that there if anybody else had the same question.
Great, thank you. All right, the next thing that we want to talk about is being able to configure connection rate limits on the Firebox policies. So we'll go into one of the firewall policies and we'll select this one. Underneath our advanced tab is where we will find that. We'll come down and we can select to set connection rate limit. A connection rate limit can help maintain service availability for services that become unstable or fail when too many connections occur at once. The connection rate the connection rate limit restricts the number of new connections per second and prevents overload. You can configure this setting in the firewall policy that handles the traffic for the specific service that you're looking to use. And when you configure a connection rate limit, the Firebox will deny any additional connections, and it generates logs when it runs higher than whatever you specify there. So that's available there. The last one that I want to show you is the policy-based VOVPN. So before the addition of this type of VPN, all the VPNs in a cloud-managed firewall were route-based VPNs. Now you can select whether you want to do a route-based or a policy-based VOVPN. but there are a few notes about policy-based VPNs that you should be aware of. First, the policy-based VPNs are rule-based, and so a policy-based VPN defines rules that determine which data can pass through the VPN. There's no separate tunnel interface like there is with a route-based VPN. So it's based on the access control lists that you're creating and only forwards explicitly permitted traffic without having to use a separate routing interface. And these type of VPNs are fairly simple, but sometimes they can be inflexible as well. It's good for fixed site-to-site connections, but it's less dynamic than the route-based VPNs, as changes require manual adjustments. So to configure the branch office VPN, in the device configuration, we'll go to the branch office VPN section. We can go ahead and just start the configuration wizard, if you will. I'll just give this a name, test. I can actually copy that. And here's where we can select which type of VPN we're going to do. We can do a route-based VPN that's between cloud managed devices. We can do a route-based VPN to a local managed device or a third-party device. And we can do policy-based VPN to a locally managed device or a third-party device. So here we'll select one of the locally managed firewalls I have in my lab. We'll hit next. I'll select the interfaces that I want. Oh, whoops, I did not select that. Forgot to select the policy base. So let me do that. We'll put in an endpoint name there. On this one, we'll select, and then we'll just put in a bogus IP address of where it's going to connect to, give it a pre-shared key, and then I can select the network on the cloud managed firewall that I'd like to have pass traffic. I can add additional network resources here if I needed to, and then I can specify the network resources for the let's see, whoops. So I can add, I'll add just a couple just so you can see. As we go into the next, this is where we can specify how those, how the traffic's passing. So I can specify either bidirectional, or I can, specify traffic from my firewall going to that third-party firewall, or only traffic from the third-party firewall coming back to me, being initiated on the far side. So we have control of what's going through there. And then we'll just complete the VPN by setting the phase 1 and phase 2 parameters there. And so I'm not going to go through the rest of that, but that gives you an idea of how those branch office VPNs are created that are going to be policy based. Okay, so now let's get back to here. We'll talk about WatchGuard Cloud and features that are in the platform itself. The first one is the ability to check the functional support of a device configuration when firmware is changed on the device. So this can be done either on single devices or on devices that are using templates, and it's done automatically when you do firmware upgrades. So If the firmware version does not support a function that's configured on the device already, you're going to get a message that looks like this. If the function is no longer supported, we'll get another message, a slightly different message that's saying that the device firmware is not compatible. And so we'll see those type of messages as we're doing our upgrades. If there's templates that have features that are being used or that, we'll see very similar ones that tell us that one or more templates contains something that's either requires an update or that requires or that's not supported. So those are there. I do want to show you a couple areas really quick of things that are available for you as well. Let's jump over. The first one is the account level MFA. So in order to enable that, we would go to administration and operators and roles. In here, we can turn on MFA for all of the operators that we have configured instead of previously having to go to each individual operator in our account and enable that. So we can enable that there. When you enable MFA at an account level, the WatchGuard MFA for all operators in your account, or it enables MFA for all the operators, and it sends an activation email to the email address associated with that operator. The email contains a link so that you can activate the off point token on their mobile device. When you disable MFA for an operator account, they'll no longer if they no longer want to be able to use MFA when they log into WatchGuard Cloud. You can do that, but if you disable just one of the user's MFAs, that will disable the global MFA for all operators. When that happens, all the other operators that are configured for MFA will still be able to use MFA. If you decide to just turn off MFA up here with the toggle, you'll get a message asking if you want to leave MFA enabled for the users that have it or not, and so you'll see that pop up. The next thing is inventory and allocation summary. This is something that is beneficial for you as partners. So if you go to overview first of all, and then on the inventory, you'll get this icon up here in the corner to be able to download a CSV that contains an inventory of your account as well as all of your subscriber accounts. This is an example of mine that I've downloaded. I can see all my devices, the level of what's installed on it, whether it's standard or total or basic, what the model is, and then I can also see information about endpoint for each of those different subscriber accounts as well. So very useful for you as a partner to be able to look at that. The next thing is to look at ThreatSync Core. Let me hop back over to there and show you that. So in ThreatSync Core, if you've enabled that, you'll notice that we have multiple screens where you can see what the score is that's happening in the summary. You'll see it with bubbles over here in the indicators list. You'll see it listed there. And so so what happens is we have the ability now to automatically reclassify some of the interactions that are happening. Classification of unknown programs appear in ThreatSync as an unknown program after the analysis by the endpoint security. It'll get classified as goodware or malware. Automatic actions after that reclassification that can happen are that the incident risk score will get recalculated. There'll be an update to the incident type in all the lists and detail pages, and reapplication of the automation policies based on that new classification. And so that's something that's good for you to understand. And then just a note that if the initial blocked program is classified as goodware, it remains blocked in ThreatSync. Manually unblocking is possible on the incident details page, though. There's one other item that I want to show you inside of WatchGuard Cloud really quickly, and that has to do with being able to create custom operator roles to help with managing ThreatSync Core. So if we go to our subscriber account underneath administration and operators and roles, underneath the roles is where we can go and we can create a new role. When you do that, you'll select one of the base roles that are pre-configured, either administrator, analyst, or observer on a subscriber account. When you select observer, everything's read-only. And so you can go in and select which things you want that are read-write. So underneath ThreatSync Core, we can select the items that we want, people that have this role to be able to take action on. I will note that you'll notice that inside of here, there are some of the products that don't have any granular options yet, such as FireCloud, AuthPoint, and Firebox devices. Part of that is because these are inside of WatchGuard Cloud. The RBAC functionality is available at the platform level, but the individual product pillars need to define those, and some of them have got those completed. Others are still working on those. And for new products like FireCloud, those are still getting defined. And so as time goes on, we'll start seeing those show up as well. So you can do into more granularity with those different types as well. The last thing that I want to show you has to do with ThreatSync SaaS, ThreatSync Plus SaaS, and being able to look at those raw logs. So I'm going to hop over to this tenant here, and to be able to do that, you'll go to Monitor ThreatSync Plus, and we'll now have a item on the left-hand side here to search raw logs. That gives us the ability to search logs for 365 documents, and that will be file and folder stuff. So for example, SharePoint file operations such as file modifications, file downloads, access, things like that. You can see that there. For 365 ID access, this has to do with user activity and events. such as login successful or failure. So I'm going to actually drop this down to 25 so we can see we've got a few, we've got a failure here, a lot of logins, and then if there was password resets, things like that, we would start seeing those in here as well. So that's what we can do, searching those raw logs inside of ThreatSync plus SaaS. Okay, so we've run a little bit long on time, a lot of stuff to cover. Michael, were there any one or two really good questions that we might want to answer, or do you think we're probably good?
I think we are good because we got exactly none. So I'll
Okay.
take that as in you did well and hit everything, answered all the questions because we didn't get any.
Wonderful. Okay, perfect. Well, we're at time. So the last, oops, let's see, I want to, oops, where am I at here? So the last thing that I do want to just mention is we will be having our next webinar on Tuesday, June 3rd, and it will be covering ThreatSync Core, the extended detection and response across product lines. So we'll be diving in a little bit more on the ThreatSync Core functionality. We've got the URL link there, and I believe it's going to get pasted into the chat here as well so that you can grab that if you want to. And with that, I'll let you get back to your day. Thank you for joining us on this webinar.